Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. We're going to talk about data source information or data source info. Specifically, the function could also be used to kind of drill down and get property information as well. Now, full transparency, I've never used this function. I don't know how I would use this function in a way that would be helpful. The issue for me is that I'm not 100% convinced that I can find a way to use it. There's certain use cases that might be applicable, but I think I might use different techniques or tactics. So basically, if we look at the data source info function, we can get things like the display name. So basically, it says it'll display the column name if no display name is defined, and then it just returns the column name. So in other words, if I say show me what the display name is, and again, programmatically, I don't know why you would need to use this. If anything, I've got the inverse problem where, for example, if I go to a table and I start looking at different things, right? I'm like, okay, this is great. This is email, but let me edit the column. And then I start looking at it and I'm like, okay, well, this is the display name. What is the programmatic name for this? And it's like, okay, I can't really see it here. It doesn't tell me what's going on. So then let me come over here to columns. And now if I come down to columns and I try to look at this information, trying to find, let's see, where's email, email. Here we go. Okay, so this is the display name, but the programmatic name, if I scroll all the way to the top, I wish they had sticky stuff. This is name. So this name column is the programmatic name. And so this is usually the problem that I have. Like, I know what the display name is. I just need to know programmatically what the programmatic name is so that I can manipulate it, so that I can use whatever I need to use in Power Apps. I don't know of a use case where I knew the actual programmatic name, but I had no clue what the user-friendly display name was. So again, I don't know how or why I would use that, but I need the opposite of this. In any event, let's see, data source max length. So let me start showing you some of this data source info function. We're going to do this on the context table because this is what I have loaded up here. And I'm going to do max length of the, let's say, the email, okay? Email address 1. Remember, email address 1 was the programmatic name. See, I knew what the display name was, email. But if I had not gone and seen this over here for email, I wouldn't know that it was email address 1. So I just illustrated my very problem that I just said I had. So I know it's email address 1, right? And so I'm going to pop this back. Okay, so what am I doing here? I'm getting the max length. So for those of you that are probably really confused, or at least as much as I was, and maybe you're not, but for me, this is how I interpreted it at first until I had gone into the documentation and figured out, oh, okay, that's what this thing's doing. And it's not clear from the documentation either. So the point is, what this really brings back is the maximum value that you've set on the table or on the column as a property. So if I try to go in here and edit this, if I come down to advanced options, maximum character count is 100. Okay, and that's what I'm seeing here. That's what the value that's being returned here, this is where it comes from. If you were thinking that I've got a table full of email addresses, like I do over, contacts. Let's let it load. Okay, see all these email addresses? If I did a count for each one of these, and then an aggregate, and then I sorted it, and then I said, give me the maximum number of, like, give me the biggest email address here in the list. It'll probably return 25, 40, 45, maybe 50 characters in length. If I did like add columns and other stuff like that. So if you were thinking, hey, I don't have to go through all that hoopla, I could simply just use this function and get the email address that's the largest in the list with the maximum character count. That'll let me know, hey, how close am I getting to the table's maximum size of 100? But that's not how this works. This simply just brings back programmatically in the database what is the maximum column length. So you would use this in the use case of validation. You might, knowing that the field, it can only hold a maximum of 100 values, you could do an on-change event so that when somebody's typing into the text box, if it exceeds 100, that you could then pop up a window. You could format the back of the color red, something to stick into the user's face. Hey, listen, dude, or chick, girl, whatever. You can only put in the maximum value of 100 characters, and you've exceeded that by, whatever. The point is, you could use it in that use case, but I don't know that many of us would go through that pain of doing that. We would simply just capture it with the error after the fact and deal with it that way potentially. Anyway, there's a whole different bunch of potential use cases for that. So that's what max value is. Now, min value, this is something of interest. So let's do dot min value for email. And I think this only works on numerical columns. I bet I forgot. Let's see here. Minimum numeric value that you can hold. The column that contains numbers. So what is it? Credit limit, I think, is what I've got here. Let's do credit limit. CRE. There we go. Credit limit. All right. So this is 0. And so this is telling me the minimum value. So again, certain columns have a minimum value property and others have a maximum value property. Here's the credit limit. Let me see if I can click on this, edit column. Let's see if this is an option here. Yep. Minimum value, maximum value. So if I said the minimum value had to be 5, again, this is the thing that's being pulled back. Now, if I look at the data in here, I only have 3 records that have any values, and the maximum amount is 8,000. That's this particular contact, Antoinette Ethorn, has an $8,000 credit limit. Everybody else has none. Amelia has 50, and Alan has 10. Everybody else has none. So there's no necessarily functional way of using these. This really is talking about the schema type of configuration settings, all right? And so long story short, the takeaway here is this is essentially metadata about your table, hence the word data source information. Don't get it confused trying to think that you're talking about the data within inside of the table or the data inside of the data source. This is more metadata or schema information about your table. So if you can wrap your head around that, that's probably the best way to look at this function. And then, of course, go ahead and refer to all of these here. I am not going to post this particular Power App up on the thing because it's really just straightforward. Just go ahead and play with it and you'll be able to get and see what you need to do. The main point was just to show you how or what this is, what it could potentially be used for. It's up to you to determine or not if it's anything of value to you. This might have a certain use case. I didn't cover it, but essentially you can check to see if the context of the current user has permissions to do certain things like create, delete, edit, and read. Also, what values might be allowed in that particular data source. So I highly encourage you to decide whether or not you want to go ahead and use this or not. Here are some examples. One thing that I will note in these examples, this DataSourceInfo.displayName is unnecessary. When you're actually typing it, you just say display name, max length, required. And you saw me do that here. It puts in data source dot for you when you choose from the enumerated list of min value, for example, that I chose here. So just know that you don't have to type it out like that. IntelliSense will help you find the list value and then it will append or change this to add it for you. Even though that the documentation is technically correct. I just wanted to call out that it will give you an enumerated list for these different things: max value, min value, read permission, so on and so forth. All right, that's it for this video, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.